started utilitarianism as a belief system. And this is supposed to be scientific, and yes, you can, I suppose, examine a person's brain and find out if they're happy, less happy, less happy, less happy, sad, depressed. Probably do that with machinery today, fortunately not invasive, and so on. And in fact, we could use medical technologies to help, here, take these and call me in the morning, that kind of thing. You should feel better. I know people that works for. So, but that's presuming that instead of charity being the highest value, happiness, individual happiness is the highest value. But individual happiness, and we ought to figure out how to calculate how happiness could be spread around, because you don't want just one happy person in a family. You want the whole family to be happy. So how can we make the whole family happy? Well, we go to the fair. Instead of sitting home reading Hegel in the sun on the back deck, we go to the fair. So everybody enjoys the day, Saturday at the fair, with sunshine, which is a very rare event, right? So uncertainty is based on happiness, but the question becomes, how do you create this kind of happiness?
And how do you define it?
I mean, we've clearly come a long way. You can buy devices that will make you happy. You buy creams that will make your skin happy. You can buy perfumes that will make your lover happy. You can buy clothing that will make your lover happy. Wait a minute, I'm stuck in a rut here. Happiness, On the other hand, we have places where people have no opportunity to make use of those devices, those creams, those perfumes,
No access.
food. I mean, every time I look at images that are shown, by the news media, what's happening in different places in the world where life is totally opposite, in a manner of speaking, from the way I live it. Global warming is ruining their environment. They can't survive on their own. They need help from everyone else. And almost always in those kinds of situations, there's violence between groups. Haiti, think of Haiti, and the situation there. Oh my goodness, there are way more people that are in a much worse situation. And when you're trying to figure out how to be a good utilitarian, and you're thinking about the greater good for the greater number, you wonder, well, wait a minute.
Are we really doing that?
I mean, there are examples of that. Peter Singer is a philosopher that gets into the news a lot, whether he's teaching at Princeton. I think he's emeritus now, but he's the one that thought that, if you kill a fetus because you don't want it, why not kill a 2-year-old because you don't want it? Where's the dividing line? And people look at that kind of argumentation and think, he's horrible. He's actually just trying to point out to you how horrible you guys are for thinking that it's all right for you to kill a fetus. And he's pointing out, and there's no real argumentative basis for you to distinguish between a fetus and a 2-year-old. One is inside, one is outside. That seems to be the main argument. One can survive on its own, at least for a day or two.
He's at Princeton.
He's still there. But, so he's an example. And you can see that, he argues pigs ought to have rights. Chickens ought to have rights. We shouldn't have chicken farms, especially not boneless chicken farms. If you've ever seen pictures of them,
Yeah.
what kind of life is that? So uncertainty goes with utility. So those are my north and south on my square. Then I have on my map, yes, the self and the community, the we, on the other side. And as a philosophical example of the self, I put Aristotle. Aristotle's focus in his Ethica, character, the Germans call it Bildung, right, is myself. How can I be flourishing? What's the way for me to be flourishing? Now, for Aristotle, you have to be in a family, you have to be in a community, and in order for an individual to flourish, the family has to flourish, the community has to flourish. There's no way for an individual to flourish on their own. It takes a village. But the thing is, your focus is on your own self-flourishing, which I think I mentioned a contemporary author is Alistair MacIntyre. Alistair MacIntyre. I'll show you. So he's actually Irish, but they call him Scottish. Mick Mac. I get them mixed up. And Obama is Irish. Obama. That's hilarious, actually. If you remember, while he was president, the Irish were so proud of him, they called him Irish. And I think actually his grandparents on his mother's side were Irish. Remember, his mother was Caucasian.
Right.
In any case, Alistair MacIntyre argues that the best ethical theory for Americans after virtue, basically a state of modern moral discourse is failing us because of this problem that we have. How do you demonstrate that a moral value or a statement concerning morals is true or false? In our modern sense, it's an opinion, so therefore your opinion's as good as mine. How do we know whether it's good for us to kill children? Well, it doesn't really feel like it would be good for society. And he's also a Catholic, by the way, and his career has mostly been in teaching at Notre Dame. But so he's a contemporary example that would argue that eudaimonia, which is just Greek for EU is good, daimon is a demon, and what Aristotle meant by the demon being possessed by a good demon is the excitement that you feel over a certain thing. You're possessed by the demon of the...
So inspiration is a demon?
Well, there's good demons and bad demons. When you talk in English today, when we refer to demons, we don't put the prefix telling you which kind of demon it is.
I see.
And as a result, we think of all demons as, evil. But in the Greek at the time, it's the excitement that you feel that possesses you, that you're so excited about what you're doing. Not sure how that would interconnect, but it certainly would. The muses, they're all examples of the different arts,
Right.
and so on.
They're demons in their own sort by that definition.
Well, when Jesus was being promoted by his followers, and people saying, what Jesus had accomplished and so on, people would ask, is Jesus a good demon or a bad demon? Because they, in Greek, they had, if you were doing miracles and magical things, that meant you were a demon. But now, there were loads of demons around, and you didn't want to believe in one of the ones that was evil. You wanted the good ones. And there were a few. Jesus wasn't the only one. But in any case, yes, the idea of a eudaimonia is good flourishing, really, for the individual. But yeah, of course, you really can't be flourishing on your own. And I love this also. I'll go ahead and point out Miroslav Volf, Flourishing. Miroslav Volf, fantastic book. Sorry I keep telling everyone all these books are fantastic, but I'm addicted, and I've been enjoying myself for 73 and a half years or so, many of which I've been reading. And this kind of book is fantastic. Why we need religion in a globalized world. Well, remember, my definition of religion is belief in a meta-narrative. So even Richard Dawkins, in my point of view, has a religion. His is a religion of evolutionary ethics and atheism. Close to Nietzsche in some ways. But this one argues that flourishing, of course, requires this globalization of a ethic that we can all agree on. If we're going to stop all these wars, we need all these different countries to start moving towards a common ethic, which would be embedded in a religion. And he's encouraging the different religions to form a kind of a religious UN that will all come together and meet, and they, if they're the highest members of the various religions, you can almost guarantee that their ethics are going to all come very close to one another, and within a not too distant future, we ought to have a unified world religion. Which
I agree with that, but a unified world code is definitely necessary. Which you could
well, we have the UN.
We
We have the UN code of ethics, so to speak.
The UN isn't the whole world.
Well, there's 190 some signatories
And
to
there's
it.
no generalized code.
Well, yeah, they keep working on it. They have no authority, though.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem. I've said a million times, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. The UN doesn't have.
And of course, an issue with that is that even though they might all agree on, say, something like human rights,
Right.
they don't actually agree on what human rights are.
That's what I'm getting at.
So there's, you can have a formal document, but at the same time, but there are attempts to organize religious groups. The thing is, you're talking at the highest level of those academic theologians.
Mm-hmm.
So you get an imam and a rabbi and a bishop and a Buddhist monk, and you put them all in a room together. They'll all agree on everything.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't have any impact on all the followers at
Right.
the street level, where people basically learn the kind of interpretation of their religious narrative that's for children. Because, children don't have the capacity to understand the more abstract relationships. And so you end up with a divergence between what the theoretical heads of the world religion believe, and the impact it has on individuals who are still fighting with their brother and sister over stuff. But yeah, if we're going to solve all these world crises, what we need is more unity in our beliefs, and that will require us sitting down and organizing ourselves. So I, you know,